With this political environment, I don't know if anybody could do the job. And at least one House Judiciary member, Democrat Congressman David Cicilline, says Facebook can't be trusted to regulate itself. Is he right? Let's bring in Congressman Andy Biggs, a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, this isn't just about Facebook, by the way. This is about whether the Internet itself has grown so much that we're heading towards a time when it's going to be labeled as a public utility of sorts that needs a whole new slew of regulations. Isn't that where we're going?
Well, that's where my friend like David Cicilline would like to take us. I don't think that's wise. I think one of the reasons that the Internet has been so successful is that it's been so laissez-faire approach by government. And the alternative is to take a look at someplace like China or some other repressive regimes, and you'll see the attempt constantly to stifle speech through the use of the Internet. And I'm afraid that's where some of my friends want to go.
Congressman, there's a fine line, I guess, in government stepping in here and regulating the tech sector as a whole. Do you think that needs to be done? And if so, how?
Well, I don't think that that's government's best option here. I think that we need to keep putting pressure on, which we've been doing. Let's face it, the first thing is you have to shine the light on it. And that's what we're seeing with government coming in. I don't think government's going to be best served, or the people are going to be best served, if government comes in and even does try to do a light-handed regulation. I think the market will ultimately clear this up. We're in kind of a transition phase, I think, is the way to look at it. And we're finding out there's a lot of bad stuff, and I think the bad stuff's going to have to get cleaned up by Facebook, or there's going to be other folks that come in and fill that void.
Congressman, I'm glad to hear your hands-off stance. It sounds hands-off to me. But my question is, politicians, just by their nature, you know, they're like scorpions. They always want to sting. They always want to get involved. Are you going to be able to hold back the tide of people wanting to bring Facebook in before a Senate committee and then grilled and stuff like that?
Look, I mean, it's a different bringing them in and having them answer why their algorithms are prejudiced against, my position would be they're prejudiced against conservatives. That's one thing to have them come in and explain why their algorithms are doing that and getting commitments. It's something different altogether to start regulating, placing statutes in place where there's punitive sanctions. I think that we can do it in a laissez-faire approach where we just bring them in and say, look, you know, we're concerned about this. This is a public concern. But I think some of my friends across the aisle would rather see us, did you say scorpions? They would like to sting more like scorpions, and I am concerned about that.
Congressman James Freeman here with the Wall Street Journal. I guess I'm concerned not just about the people on the other side of the aisle, but on your side as well. I'm wondering if you can give us a sense of how big the threat is that we'll get some kind of Washington deal with big government and big tech creating a federal Internet regulator.
Well, so you're talking kind of like a fascist type of issue. And
well, maybe created in the name of privacy protection and stopping Russian bots and what have you. But is this a real risk, or you think unlikely at this point?
I think it's a real risk because it isn't folks just on the other side. You're correct. There are people in my own conference who would like to see something done. I think we're all concerned about what's happening with Facebook and how powerful they've become as a communicator. But I think there's still enough of us who really believe that the marketplace will ultimately be the arbiter here, and that Facebook will have to clean up its act, and they'll have to do it sooner rather than later because there's enormous pressure on them right now. And I don't think Facebook wants to necessarily be regulated unless it's going to help them, and this is where we get into the fascist point, and this is the part that always concerns me, if they're going to make it truly anti-competitive with the regulations that they would seek.
Christina speaking right now. Congressman, I'm a little bit confused because I don't know what that threshold should be until you have government regulate. Because look at Myanmar. You had Facebook posts that created the chaos in Myanmar, ethnic cleansing. It resulted in lots of deaths. It resulted in a migration of people. We can't discount that. And has that mean that it's already gone too far? Like, I understand. I don't necessarily agree with regulation, but look at what's happening and the meddling as well in the elections.
Well, no, I think you're exactly right, but to be concerned. But let me explain it this way. The argument's going to be on free speech and access. But we regulate speech in certain ways now. You can't commit fraud through speech. You can't commit libel or slander. There are ways to remedy that. You can't threaten. You can't intimidate. These are prohibited actions that can be litigated and in some instances even prosecuted. And maybe that's where you go, because we don't want to stifle free speech or the marketplace, but where we have already places that are sanctionable, whether it's through civil sanctions or through criminal prosecution, I think those are already out there.
Congressman,
will take care of the rest.
To James's point earlier, it's not only Democrats. There are some Republicans. Right. Some would even say the president himself at times has sort of spoken in language that would seem to indicate he wants to regulate the internet somehow. If you lose, if your libertarian views lose, and there is some kind of major new creation of government bureaucracy to regulate the internet, what happens to the internet? What happens to all the companies that get their money from the internet?
Well, some of them are going to make a whole lot more money, and a lot of them are going to make a whole lot less money. That's what would happen, because all of this would actually stifle entrepreneurship, stifle creativity, which has made the internet such a phenomenon.
Congressman, again, your words are like bringing a glow to me, your libertarian view, but I'm going to ask you for odds and percentages, because you know, as I mentioned earlier, this is not how Congress works. What are the odds of the companies like Facebook being regulated in some way, shape, or form, do you think?
I think, unfortunately, if this continues, if they don't start taking care of these issues themselves, I think the odds are actually fairly high that at some point, I don't think next year or the year after, but you would see a move to regulate them because the seeds are already being planted, the foundations are already being laid.
Sad day, wouldn't it be, don't you think?
Yeah.
Well, I think so. I really do think so.
Well, and bottom line is that may be one of the reasons the air is coming out of NASDAQ quick. Congressman Andy Biggs, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.